Hello, I'm Don Graves, president of the Gila Native Plant Society, and this is Pond Making 101. So Wendy and I wanted to have a little water feature at our place here in Silver City, and we had never done it before. So let us show you what we did. Obviously, you're going to want to choose a location for your pond or water feature. You're going to want to know, what size you want your pond or water feature to be, and you have to think about once the pond overflows, monsoon time, for example, where do you want that water to go? Okay. So some things to think about. As far as size, we started off with a 5-foot wide by 10-foot long piece of liner. And we realized that it just was not going to be big enough. It was too narrow. The length was just fine, but it was just too narrow. You can see this berm material here, which is really nothing more than a deconstruction products, if you will, some old brick and rock and cement block and tiles, etc. But that will offer very good drainage, and you'll see later that soil has been added on top of that. But back to the liner here. So when it rains, water is coming down, and we didn't want that water carrying soil and particles to wash right into the pond. Okay, so we knew that we needed a much wider liner. Incidentally, we used this Bauer hammer drill to it kind of acts like a jackhammer, if you will, and that's what we used to excavate. It saved a lot of time, and it was well worth the cost. So here's our 10 by 10 liner. So you can see how the width of this extra 5 feet allowed us to bring that up onto this berm. So now when water falls and it's carrying soil particles, it will drain behind this fabric, and we have it draining out this way. Okay. It also allowed us to berm this up a little bit here. You can see there's a little bit of a berm here and a little bit of a berm here, so that when it rains out here, it's going to drain away from the pond, and it can't. That water carrying the products of weathering, soil and bits of clay, etc., will not wash into the pond. Okay, so that's something to keep in mind. We also have an underlayment that we purchased, and I'll have a price list and show you what we used at the end of the video. That just keeps it from weathering or from tearing or puncturing, but if there's anything sharp underneath. Okay. These boards and rocks are just to keep the wind from blowing the fabric. Although it's a heavy duty rubber material from Firestone, strong winds will blow it around while you're in your construction phase. Here you can see the shape, maybe a little better, of our pond. This is the deep end, about 2 feet. This area here I call the shallows, so the water will come up way up into here when the pond is full of water. We eyeballed it as far as drainage, when it overflows, which way is it going to go? Is it going to go that way or that way or this way? And we did a pretty good job of getting it level and draining where we wanted it. So this is the low end of the pond. So when the monsoon rains come, when it overflows, it's coming this way. It'll come up and over the fabric and out into here. But we're going to have plants here that will like it a little bit wetter, like a little bit more moisture. Everything that's being planted up here, cacti, agave, etc., is going to be a high and dry. This is not going to require any watering on this berm around the pond. So here you can see there's plenty of fabric here to bring up and over this little berm. Here we are filling the pond, and fill the water. It's when you really get a sense of, okay, what's the profile of the water, around the perimeter. And once again, we did pretty well as far as leveling it out, and didn't have to correct. But if you get a little extra fabric, you see you can bring it up and make it a little higher here. If you don't want it to drain this way, you could bring this up and bring this down just a little bit and let it drain that way. Or you could have it drain this way. So you can play with it. But if you have too narrow and it's not long enough, then you're going to have problems like we did. So here you can see that we've started to fill up. This is water will come up into here, the shallows, and this is the deep end here. This is tubing that is attached to a water tank that is filled. It's a 2,500 gallon tank, and it's rainwater. It comes off of the roof of our casita. So we're not using any city water except for our initial fill. Here you can see that tubing. Now we have the rocks placed all the way around. You can see a little bit of fabric here. This is a wet spot, so when it overflowed, that's the way to check it out. Put the hose in there and let it overflow and see where it's going. And so this is the wet spot, and so that'll be a nice area for certain types of plants that wouldn't like it up here. We probably made it a little too rectangular. We tried to take some of these edges off, but we're hoping that with the rest of the berming that we do and the planting, that'll ease that a little bit. So that was one thing that if we had to do it over again, we might have taken a little more time. But you can see the shallows here. This is only an inch deep at the most. And here's the water tank on a snowy day, a 2,500 gallon water tank. And obviously the water tank is not just for this pond. The water tank is for watering during the times when it's May and June and there's no monsoon. So you can see we've extended this berm out here, so that'll help take the edge off a little bit. A little farther along in the project with carefully placed rocks, you can make planting areas. So you can see here's the front. Now here is where that wet spot was, right in here. Okay. So this area here is going to be an area that's going to allow something that likes a little bit more water to grow. I'd like to show you here. Here's we have a solar panel. We'll show you that in a bit. And here's the cord and the pump. Recirculating pump is right down here. And out of that pump comes this tubing, which comes up and snakes around up here. So what we tried to do is to have it when the pump is off, the water here should drain back down into the pond, and there's a little hump here, so any water here and forward will drain down into the pond this way. So hopefully we don't get freezing pipes or tubing. But so the water will recirculate, comes through here, and it drips and drips and drips down into the pond. And there's a little bowl here in this rock. I mean, it's shaped like a bowl, so that collects some water, and some water collects here as well. So you get lots of places for the birds to drink or bathe. Here you can see the extending the berm out a bit. But we've planted now. We have Perry's agave and Palmer's agave and another agave we got from a friend here from Arizona. I'm not sure which one that is yet. We have down in the pond, we have cardinal flower, monkey flower, and we also have some equisetum or horsetail. So it's evolving. This is the solar panel, and that is running the recirculating pump. The view out our casita, this is from inside the casita through the glass, so you can see that with the rock wall in the background, it just makes a nice aesthetically pleasing view out that window. And this was our most recent snow, and you can see the agave are all covered. Probably got 10 to 11 inches in this snow, and that's going to be great for the spring wildflowers. We got our pond liner at justpondliners.com, and you can see the cost for the pond liner, the underlayment, and the shipping. So we really don't have a very large investment here. We had Asher Gelbert, who his company is called Green Energy Now. He is an expert at water, collecting and moving and diverting and all of that. And so we had him consult with us, and he has a wonderful assortment of these very inexpensive but quality solar pumps. So the pump and the tubing and all of that was less than just the cost, for his time. The solar panel is a 12 volt, 10 watt, and it was $20.99 from newpowa.com. So you can see that the cost is if you do it all yourself, obviously, which we did. It's a very affordable project if you do it that way. So hope you have enjoyed it. And if you have some questions, get on the discussion board on Canvas and ask some questions, or maybe show us pictures of your pond and your water feature, or bring it up at one of our Zoom meetings on Saturdays. Okay, good luck.